Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video, we are looking at Micron Technology. It is time for another update, and on this chart, we have been tracking this idea of a 1-2 setup, where ideally we would expect a third wave to follow the upside. And I say ideally because while we can expect with high probability after the initial 5-wave move to the upside, a 3-wave correction and at the very least another 5-wave move to the upside, we don't actually need it to be a wave 3 to fulfill these requirements. This could also work out perfectly within a rather simpler ABC structure, and yeah, we could have already formed a more significant top even in the previous video within this structure. We were also tracking it as a potential wave 1, part of a larger wave 3. We even had the area of support for a wave 2 correction prepared based on the fact that we had a full count within this structure. We were also tracking possible extensions within this green interpretation that would have allowed this fifth wave to basically extend within either interpretation, but based on the sheer strength of the current wave to the upside, of the current uptrend, we are able to track what is normally considered a quite unrealistic expectation, and it is widely available on many charts. Do we actually get a series of 1-2 setups, yeah, a very large amount of 1-2 setups that could be tracked within this area even. But on how many of them do we actually follow through? Well, I'll tell you, almost within none. It almost never happens that we actually get within such a large time frame a series of 1-2 setups and we actually follow through within the bullish interpretation. They actually never failed to hold a single 1-2 setup. We aren't tracking anything but a 5-wave move within all of these waves to the upside. We don't need to. It's not an issue, and it's still within the early stages, but within this structure, we are able to actually track such an idea. We would have here a potential 1-2 setup, a third wave that could be unfolding to the upside, a fourth, and a fifth to complete a larger wave 3. But remember how many 1-2 setups I just drew here on the chart. Yeah, it could be more or less. It is a rough number, but for each of them, we would then need to form a 4-5 pattern once we actually have this wave 3 complete. Now again, it is still within the early stages. We actually didn't even get to the ideal target for the wave 3 right now. Yeah, we are still below it, but I believe there is a very low likelihood that we wouldn't reach those levels if we even are to build, even within the green interpretation, this wave C to the upside. Now, this sits currently at the $660 level at the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. Now, I want to go a bit more through the previous video structures we were tracking before we actually get into the internal pattern in this area. And here, in the previous video, we were looking for a potential 1-2 setup that was a very interesting area to look for a position into. Unfortunately, we didn't even get to the area of support. And while we may be able to track this instead as a series of 1-2 setups, I don't necessarily believe this is the case, that this is needed. I would instead consider that we just formed a very shallow wave 2. It is quite uncommon, but it does certainly happen sometimes, yeah, usually within at least the initial wave 1 part of a larger wave 3, we would get to the area of support, but yeah, oftentimes it doesn't happen within smaller structures. This time, it didn't happen within a rather larger structure than normally. Now, of course, we didn't manage to follow through. We did signal a possible breakout by breaking initially the area of resistance, but yeah, we were still preferring another low. Now again, I would still consider this to be a single wave 1 to the upside and to have here the bottom within the wave 2. Now, I will be tracking this upside potential within the blue interpretation because it is applicable for both the green and the yellow scenario. We are tracking this as part of a larger potential wave 3 to the upside, and within it, I am tracking an impulse within this wave 3. And inside this impulse, I would consider this to be a possible wave 1 up, a wave 2 down, and here I would consider this third wave to actually still be ongoing. The internal wave 3, yeah, not the entire wave 3 we actually have here drawn. And while I wouldn't necessarily consider a top to be in place, I could provide you a more significant area of support for the internal wave 3 that could be considered to have topped within this area. Again, I believe we should expect further extensions before we look for the larger correction, but for this I would consider the area of support again for a wave 4 correction. We would have here the levels between the $295.8 roughly down to the $212 level at the 50% retracement. In the end, as we push higher, we will also need to adjust this area of support along with it. And yeah, I would be prepared for further extensions. Now, the internal structure is going to be quite difficult to read. This is very, very common within strong wave trees that we don't get a lot of retracements, we don't get a lot of clarity, and yeah, we basically just get straight lines to the upside. Now, this is on the daily. On the weekly, this is even more so the case, and it is suggesting to us that this uptrend could very well still be considered to be ongoing. We do start to see some divergences, so I would consider that a more significant top within an internal wave tree in this area could have formed either here or here. Now, depending on which one it is, we might see a different structure unfold within this area. Because if this is a third wave top, we would then have here a fourth wave, and we would expect a 5-wave move to unfold to the upside within this area. If the third wave had topped here, this would be the wave 4 bottom, this would be the beginning of the 5th wave. We would then track an ending diagonal within this 5th wave. We would expect this to be a 1-2 setup, a third wave up, and then a larger wave 4 correction and still continuation higher within a 5th wave. In the end, it is going to provide us many areas of support we can track for continuation higher before we would even need to consider an internal larger area of support for the wave 4 correction. I will still be focusing on continuation within this 5th wave to the upside. Yeah, whether the beginning is here or here, the structure might slightly vary, but it will be nothing too significant. And unfortunately, within the smaller time frame in this area, it is going to be rather difficult to provide relevant levels of support. In the end, I will be focusing on the idea of an impulse, and for it, I would track this as a double 1-2-1-2 setup, and I would consider the third wave to be expected to still extend higher. Within it, yeah, I could consider this to be a 1, 2, 3, 4th, and the 5th part of the 5th wave. Yeah, this could be the 5th wave unfolding to the upside within this area. But to be honest, I wouldn't look too much into it. I won't even provide you an internal area of support because I don't necessarily recommend looking for a position within this area, within this structure, as we are close to quite high price levels. Yeah, we would be looking still for extension higher, but it doesn't need to do too much before a larger correction occurs and a much better opportunity could unfold. Now, if we had topped within this wave 3, the area of support I would be focusing on would be here, the 50% retracement. We are tracking, by the way, this in an orange interpretation just to have more clarity. Yeah, I feel like it works a little bit better on the blue backgrounds we are tracking within the large time frame interpretations. Nothing too specific, don't look too much into it. Now, the thing is, if we fail to hold here the 50% retracement, the $332.33 level, it would be a signal that this structure has rather completed a top within an ending diagonal. It could be even that the third wave still had topped here. It could be that we would just need a deeper retracement into a large 1, 2, 3, 4th, and the 5th. In the end, I wouldn't look too much into the internal structures. It is going to be very difficult to find valuable information, and the best we can do right now is have patience for a more reliable structure. Because once we form a more significant top within this area, we can expect a larger correction into a larger area of support that is going to provide us another opportunity to look for an internal 1-2 setup. But right now, these structures could extend within X number of ways. They're going to be generally just very difficult to find the exact count for, and yeah, it is probably going to be best to be patient and wait for the larger structures to form. But for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.